Born in Indianapolis, Indiana on August 23, 1977, Jared Scott Fogle grew up as the oldest of three children. Unlike his siblings, he was a socially awkward kid. He struggled to find friends, turning to video games and junk food to find comfort. These bad habits caused him to be the only one in his family to have a weight problem. Food was a comfort to me. It replaced personal relationships. It replaced extracurricular activities. It replaced everything in my life. His father was a physician and tried to help him overcome his weight problem, but nothing worked. And by the age of 20, Jared was eating enough for his entire family of 5 every day. For breakfast, he'd have 2 bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches with a large order of hash browns. He'd wash it down with a large coffee sweetened with 10 packets of sugar and cream. Lunch would be an entire pizza with extra cheese and meat. After lunch, Jared indulged in an afternoon snack of 2 large bean burritos. For dinner, he'd make 2 to 3 trips to a Chinese buffet with ice cream for dessert. He also treated himself to a late night snack, but it was more like a second dinner, eating a hamburger with fries and ending the night with another dessert. In total, this amounted to around 10,000 calories each day, causing him to balloon to a staggering 425 pounds. The weight caused Jared to suffer from chronic pain every day. At Indiana State University, where he attended college, walking to class was a struggle. He trudged through campus, stopping every 20 steps to catch his breath. And when he got to class, he'd worry there wasn't a seat big enough to fit him. Back at his dorm, he would try to get a good night's sleep, but couldn't. So much fat had accumulated around his neck that he developed sleep apnea. This caused him many restless nights. Eventually, his exhaustion caught up to him. One night, as Jared was driving home, his eyes started getting heavy, his body started relaxing, and he fell asleep behind the wheel. His car swerved off the road, and when he woke up, he found himself slammed into a grassy ditch. Dazed and confused, Jared soon got the bitter taste of reality in his mouth. But this would turn out to be a blessing in disguise. The utter shock from his near-death experience was enough for him to quit his overindulgent lifestyle cold turkey. And as if by divine intervention, the solution to his problems were a mere 10 steps away from his dorm. So close, in fact, that his dorm shared a wall with this restaurant, Subway. He replaced his 10,000 calorie a day diet with an entirely new one. After skipping breakfast, lunch was a 6-inch turkey sub with no cheese, no mayo, a dash of spicy mustard, along with a bag of baked lays, about 600 calories. For dinner, he ate a veggie foot-long sub with another bag of baked lays, about 800 calories. With each meal, he'd have either a Diet Coke or bottled water. He also drastically reduced his snacking habits. This amounted to a little less than 2,000 calories a day, a fifth of what he used to eat. 11 months later, he'd weigh as little as half the man that he once was, dropping 245 pounds. And people noticed. In April 1999, Jared's friend published an article. He wrote about his tremendous weight loss journey in the school newspaper. This caught the eye of Men's Health magazine, leading them to feature his story in an article called Stupid Diets That Work. It was from here that Subway would take his story and create one of the most successful advertising campaigns of all time, the Subway Diet. Essentially, the Subway diet was just reducing caloric intake into a normal, healthy amount. However, they effectively leveraged Jared's huge success story into persuading the audience that their sandwiches had a direct influence. The first commercial aired on January 1st, 2001, with a disclaimer. The Subway diet, combined with a lot of walking, worked for Jared. We're not saying this is for everyone. You should check with your doctor before starting any diet program, but it worked for Jared. Following a positive reception, they turned Jared into the face of Subway, creating around 300 commercials with him and his infamous 60-inch jeans. They were so successful that their revenue tripled from 1998 to 2011. Jared was credited with 1/3 to 1/2 of their economic growth. Years after their initial article, Men's Health magazine interviewed him again. They highlighted his newfound status as an American pop culture icon, saying that Jared, like Bono and Madonna, is one of those celebrities who doesn't need a last name. He was Jared, the subway guy. This proved to be true as Jared found himself ingrained in American culture. In 2001, Jimmy Fallon played Jared in an episode of SNL. In 2002, Jared was the subject of a South Park episode, to which Jared replied, "You know you've made it when shows like South Park start parodying you." He wrote best-selling books, served as the Grand Marshal for NASCAR, and was even honored to carry the Olympic torch through Indiana. Throughout his career with Subway, Jared amassed a net worth of $15 million, got married to his wife, Kathleen McLaughlin, and had 2 kids. In the midst of all of this, Jared created the Jared Foundation in 2004, a non-profit organization. Their mission was to create awareness for childhood obesity, traveling to schools and hosting conferences. During one of his work trips, Jared met a man named Russell Taylor, a youth market director for the American Heart Association. Jared approached Russell, asking him for help in writing a speech for a future conference. He would oblige due to Jared's status and wrote the entire speech for him. Impressed with his work, Jared brought Russell on as an employee for the Jared Foundation. These two would become the Brotherhood of Traveling Pants, speaking at cities all over the country. They even went global, visiting countries like Thailand and Indonesia. During the day, they'd come across as 2 people trying to create change in the childhood obesity epidemic. But as night fell, things would take a disturbing turn. It may have seemed that Jared brought Russell on for his contributions to the foundation, but these 2 individuals shared the same depravities. After work, they'd frequent strip clubs, hired escorts, and engaged in drug and alcohol-fueled sexcapades. Their morality was deteriorating, and for Russell, this would come at the price of his own sanity. He became increasingly suspicious about the security of his home while on these travels. This prompted him to install hidden cameras in his home to monitor his property. He'd hide them in inconspicuous things like a radio alarm clock. He expected to capture criminal activity like theft. However, when he reviewed the footage, he saw his underage intern having sex with her boyfriend in his office. He brought the footage to Jared, thinking that they'd reprimand these kids. Instead, Jared asked to watch. This added fuel to his perversion, and he asked Russell if he could install more hidden cameras in bedrooms and bathrooms. He even provided professional spy equipment so that the footage would be more pleasing to watch. It was from here where their criminal operation spread like wildfire. Jared would use Russell to record and send him CP. In exchange, he'd shower him with copious amounts of money and gifts. He gave him a house, a Mercedes-Benz, and the title of director of the Jared Foundation, with a salary of $100,000. That was 60% of their annual budget. This created a strange power dynamic where Russell was incentivized to carry out illegal acts. It seemed, however, that Jared got off on this power dynamic. He referred to himself as Russell's daddy, reminding him that daddy was paying for his things, so he should continue these acts. This operation progressed under the radar for years. Then, during a trip to Sarasota, Florida for the foundation, Jared was interviewed by a journalist and radio host, Rochelle Herman-Walrond. He took a liking to her, soon becoming comfortable enough to view her as a friend. Later, they both attended a health event at a local middle school. Things carried on normally until Rochelle alleged that Jared made lewd comments to her about underage girls, calling one of them hot. Although perturbed, Rochelle's journalistic and motherly instincts kicked in. She knew what she had just heard wasn't normal, and she suspected that there was something more to these comments. Rochelle secretly recorded and archived future conversations, taking them to the FBI. The FBI then used her for the next 4 years as an informant. She became very close with Jared, laying the honey trap, hoping to expose his wretched actions. Rochelle revealed in an interview with Dr. Phil that Jared had no filter whatsoever. "I felt like I was so dirty. My soul was dirty." In her secret recordings, Jared said despicable things about children.
Yeah, especially some in the middle school. I love the middle schools and the girls are starting to get, you know?
Yeah.
Because you know how much I love big, you know, I love you.
5 years into her investigation, Rochelle reached her breaking point when her own children, aged 10 and 11 at the time, were put into his crosshairs.
What if we put a camera in your kids' room? Would it be okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Mhm.
Would you rather have it in your son or your daughter's room?
Oh, I don't know. That would be,
Which one do you think would be better?
I don't know.
Despite all of these recordings, the FBI couldn't build a strong enough case with no physical evidence, so the investigation halted. Then, 5 years after the initial investigation, a break in the case would implicate Jared. On April 29, 2015, the director of the Jared Foundation, Russell Taylor, was arrested in his Indianapolis home. He was brought down after a flirtatious relationship with an Indianapolis woman turned dark, with Russell offering to send her images of CP. Rightfully disgusted, she reported him to the state police, where an investigation was launched. They probed her phone for more information and found more texts between them. Russell would message her, showing her various illegal acts with young girls, even animals, asking her if she'd like to partake. The results of their investigation uncovered that between 2011 and 2015, Russell produced, possessed, and distributed CP with the help of his then-wife, Angela Baldwin. Court records showed that he and his then-wife sexually molested underage girls and installed hidden cameras in the victims' homes. Charges of child exploitation, possession of CP, and voyeurism were brought on, sentencing him to 27 years in prison. His wife was also sentenced to 33 years in prison. Jared, in an attempt to feign innocence, would sever all ties with Taylor. However, it was too little, too late. On July 7, 2015, during the investigation of his disgraced former director's own operation, authorities found that Russell sent photos and videos of CP to Jared. Some were as young as 6, including images of his own stepdaughters, to which Jared would ask when he could have sex with the child. This ultimately gave the FBI enough evidence to raid Jared's home in Zionsville, Indiana, arresting him on charges of distribution and receipt of CP. On that same day, Subway would terminate their relationship with Jared. The court documents about his case would unearth the grisly details of Jared's sordid lifestyle. Jared fed his sexual desires through escort services during his business trips, where he allegedly spent $12,000 a year on. One of his victims was a 17-year-old prostitute in New York that he had sex with in a Ritz-Carlton hotel. He was frequently searching for underage girls, texting an undisclosed recipient, "I'll pay you big for a 14 or 15-year-old, 'cause it's what I crave. The younger the better." In total, Jared was in possession of 5.7 terabytes of CP, 235,000 text messages, emails, images, and videos. And on November 19th, 2015, Jared was sentenced. He testified in front of the court, starting by saying, "Where do I even try to begin? For most of my adult life, I've been in the spotlight, trying to be a positive role model for others. Not a day will go by where I don't think about them and what I did to impact their lives." He apologized to his supporters and said his wife suffered from his actions, to which the judge replied, "You gave your wife $7 million though. She'll be fine." He entered a guilty plea, resulting in 15 years and 8 months in prison. He also has to pay $1.4 million in restitution, paying 14 victims $100,000 each. Once his sentence is over, he will be on supervised release for the remainder of his life.